Welcome back to Ken Michaels Radio, where here on this channel we talk Beatles. I'm Ken Michaels, and this time out, a very special guest who's a good friend of mine. I've known him since the late 80s when he used to visit me at my radio station in New Jersey, WDHA. And we've known each other ever since then. We've done a lot of interviews together. And it's Billy J. Kramer, who's not only a great singer and a great artist, but he is family in the Beatles community because he had Brian Epstein as his manager, he had George Martin as his producer, and I always like to say John and Paul wrote more songs for him than anybody else. Billy J. Kramer, welcome to the channel again.
Hi, Ken. How you doing? Very
Good.
good this time.
We had some technical problems a few moments ago, and I hope they don't repeat. But you're here because you have two things to promote, one of which is your recent album called Are You With Me, which you can hold up and show the folks, which came out a few months ago, a little bit higher,
How's that?
much better. Got to see the British flag in there. That's the most important thing. And you. And you also have a new Christmas song, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But you recorded this album at Abbey Road Studios. And how long has it been since you recorded there?
It was a long time ago. A long time ago, back in the 60s. I visited there a couple of times over the years, but it was only briefly,
Uh-huh.
Uh, I've not recorded there. But I recorded all my earlier songs in Studio 2. You want
Right.
to know a secret? Bet to me, I'll keep you satisfied. Little children, trains, boats. I did them all there. It
Yeah.
was very emotional going back there, actually, being in the same room where I did all them records. It was
So this
a
was
great
done in
experience.
Studio 2 also?
Pardon?
This was done in Studio 2, the new album?
Yes, it was all done there. It was
How much,
strange.
yeah, how much of
Pardon?
the equipment is the same?
Oh, none of it. It's all state of the art now.
Okay.
But you still have to run up and down the stairs.
A
You know, you know.
little bit more difficult now.
Not for me. I'm okay.
All
I'm
right.
okay with it.
So you did this album in part because she was celebrating your 80th birthday. Congratulations there.
Thank
And
you.
how did this idea come about to record at Abbey Road?
A friend of mine who's in the computer world just called me up one day and he said, I see, I hear all sorts of people are going to do wonders for you, but they never do. So I'm putting a stake in the ground. I'm going to take you back to Abbey Road. And he made it happen. I had a birthday party there. I did a show in the studio, and then I went on to record the album.
Hmm. Now, how was all the songs chosen? Because you have a team of people here for this album. Laurence Juber plays on, I think, every song practically. Uh,
Yes,
Jeff Perholtz from the Newbees was involved as a producer with Lawrence. He co-wrote a lot of songs on this album. How do you know Jeff? How did that collaboration happen?
I did the Flower Power cruise about a year ago,
Ah,
and he was the musical director for it. I just thought he was brilliant, and I thought he'd be the ideal guy to take along. With him and Lawrence together, I thought they'd make a great team, and they did. They did a fantastic job.
mm-hmm.
You know, the songs, I'll be honest with you, Ken, the songs I've been sitting on, I don't know how long, for quite a while. Because over the years, as you know, I've continued to record. So I'm always like stockpiling songs and looking out for songs. And I picked the 10 songs I wanted to do. And then funny enough, Mark Hudson called me about a week before. They said, you and I were discussing a song about a year ago. And I said, yes, you know, he said, well, I've done it. I've finished it. I want to send it to you.
Hmm.
And he sent it to me. I thought it's a great song. So I knocked out one of the songs I was going to do and put that in there. It's called I Couldn't Have Done It Without You, which is a tribute song to Brian Epstein. Yeah.
Yeah, so the tracks for that song were already done, or were you in the studio at all with Mark?
No, he just sent me the demo.
The demo. Okay.
How I went about it was I got the songs, and then I got with Jeff and Laurence, and they knocked together some demos for all the different musicians, the different parts they wanted them to play, and the songs that they wanted to play on. Steve Holley played drums,
Hmm.
on some of the songs. Um, and that's how they did it.
So when you're saying you sat on these songs for a while, you had only met Jeff how long ago?
Yeah.
Okay. So were these songs that he already had written that he
Well,
gave?
Jeff primarily Jeff did the arranging, but as Kenny only he wrote one of the songs, My Sweet Rose.
Okay.
The other songs were written by, Tom Hambridge, who's a great writer,
Yeah.
um, J.J. Gilmore. I also did a cover of the John Lennon song as a tribute to John,
Right.
Jealous Guy. You know, um, I Belong was written by the Alessi Brothers.
Right.
You know, uh, I wrote Emma and
That's a
Peace
great
of
song.
Mind. You know,
Hmm.
so that was two of them I wrote.
Yeah. I'm very impressed with those two songs. Uh,
Yeah,
the song about Emma, is that really about a specific person?
I don't know who Emma is. She came to me one day over coffee. Seriously, it just came to me. Whoever you are, be kind to Emma, and it
Right.
went. I built it from there.
It's really a beautiful song, and there are strings in there. Are those real strings, or is it a keyboard, or what?
They're real strings, yes, real strings.
Yeah. But what was the whole idea behind this? It's kind of a sad song.
I just thought it was a nice song. I mean, I wrote it, but I thought it was a nice song, and Jeff and Lawrence liked it, so that was it.
Uh-huh. Wow. So this whole process of they had demos and Jeff did the arrangements for them. Did you add any ideas of your own for these songs, or since Jeff did the arrangements, he kind of controlled all that?
Um, Jeff did some of the arrangements. Lawrence did the Emma song. They both did different pieces, but Jeff made demos and Lawrence made demos, and we shipped them out to everybody.
Hmm. So all these other musicians that played on it, they sent you the tracks?
No, they actually played them in the studio.
Okay.
We made, the demos were only so they could learn the parts,
Okay.
and then we went in the studio and did them for real.
But in the case of Mark Hudson and Gary Burr is listed on there and Mark Mirando, were they in the studio or they just did their backing?
No, no, they just sent the song.
Okay. So many different ways you can record these music now. So,
I mean, you could do it with none of them being there. But we did it more or less live. Especially Jealous Sky was done totally live. And then Jeff Perholtz did a fantastic video. I don't know if you saw it or not, of Are You With Me, which
yeah.
came about. We were in Liverpool and we just felt you have these days where everything goes for you. That was unscripted. I just strolled all over the place and he just took the footage and turned it into a fantastic video.
What I like about um, these videos is when you switch from black and white with old footage into Billy today in color.
Yes. It's very remarkable. I don't know how they do it, but Jeff's brilliant at that.
Yeah. Is I couldn't have done it without you. That's the one where you're on the Ed Sullivan show at the end,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're
Yeah, that was that. And they kindly let us use some of the footage from the Ed Sullivan show.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've been very active in putting out autobiographical songs, To Liverpool with Love, Now Are You With Me, mentioning Liverpool, mentioning John and Paul, the song for Brian Epstein. You mentioned Brian in To Liverpool with Love. Seems to be an important thing for you to talk about your history in song.
Well, it is a very important thing to me, I mean, I just think that Brian Epstein put so much into the Beatles and myself and Jerry and Cilla Black, that he's deservedly so, I mean, I was really thrilled that they finally, after all these years, put a statue of him in Liverpool. To me, it should have been done 40 years ago, 50 years ago, the man, I just say this, Jeff, that he, because of him, the world got the Beatles and a lot of fantastic music, and I think he deserves to be credited for it. You know, there's never been a chapter in pop history like it, and I think he deserved to be there.
When you observe the way that he worked, because he had so many acts, not just the Beatles, and for most people, the Beatles alone would be enough on your plate to handle. But to
Right.
have you and Scylla and Jerry and the Pacemakers and the Foremost and all these other acts, was there ever a time when you felt like it might have been too much for him, or did he really thrive on all this?
I think he thrived on it, and I'll tell you the truth. People have often said to me, "Did you feel overshadowed by the Beatles?" And I say, "Not at all," because the Beatles would bring out a single, and it'd be I call the Beatles month. Then Jerry would bring out a single, it'd be Jerry's month.
Uh-huh.
Then I bring, and he would devote all his time on whichever artist had a record out, he would totally be into for a while. And I think he did a fantastic job, and he was always there for all of us. It was like a family, to be honest with
Hmm.
you. Something that I've never experienced again. The whole, his NEMS Enterprises, his company, it was just like a family, you know.
Was there ever any kind of competitive feel between any of the acts?
Not really, no, no, not in a bad way, no. I mean, let's face it, everybody tries to compete or be better. There's nothing wrong with that, you know.
There was never a time when any of the acts said you're spending too much time on the Beatles, whatever, and not about me, you know.
No, that never occurred. And Brian would also, like, if Jerry went to number one, Brian would say, you better call him up, you better send him a telegram congratulating him. And that's how it was with all of us.
When you're
This is
talking
family.
about, you were mentioning something earlier here about the singles when they came out. Did Brian kind of make sure that everybody's singles were spaced apart? A
Yes,
few,
he did. I think he got it right.
because
You
I've
know,
heard that in America, like they try not to have a Beatles and a Supremes single coming out at the same time. They'd always be like a week or two apart in case one peaked at number one, and the next thing, then the other act could peak at number one, or the Beatles and
sure.
Stones. So I guess that kind of thing was going on in the UK.
I think he figured that out and took it. It's always a gamble.
Right,
You never know. Because let's face it, you can space singles out, but you don't know how other people's singles are going to be.
right.
So it's still a crap shot. You know what I mean?
Mm. One of the interesting aspects about your career, and I've talked to you about recording a Harry Nilsson song in 1941 and recording a Bee Gees song too, before they were really famous.
Yes,
So, did you think that you had a really good ear for discovering talent?
I think I had a good ear. I've always been looked out for good songs. I mean, I was very lucky in the beginning because I had the best writers in the world. I was lucky to get so many Lennon McCartney songs. But I thought things like 1941. I thought Harry Nilsson was a brilliant writer. The Bee Gees, brilliant. Funny enough, in my show now, I've started to do Town of Tuxley Toymaker,
Ah,
which I hadn't done in all these years since the late 60s. But I do it in my show, and people really, get into it. It's surprising. They really like it,
Yeah, I can't wait to hear you do that. I've never heard you do that live.
Well, we
So
do it. I've done it quite a few times now, and it goes down really well. People are interested in the history of it.
how did you hear about Harry Nilsson before he was famous?
I was doing the rounds of music publishers, and I went to RCA. There was a guy there who worked for RCA called Derek Green, and I went to him. It was a Friday afternoon, I remember distinctly, and he said, "I don't have any songs for you, Billy, but I've got this amazing album of this new guy." And it was a Harry Nilsson album, and I said, "Can I take it home?" And he kindly let me take it home for the weekend, and I played it to death. And
Hmm.
I just thought, 1941 is a great song for me. And I got with an arranger called Johnny Arthey, and there was a guy called Jimmy Duncan was doing production for Brian Epstein's label, the NEMS label, and I got together with him, and we put it together. Um, Unfortunately, at that time, Brian died, and it never got the big push that I think it needed to get.
Hmm.
But I was very happy with the record. I think I did a pretty good job.
You know, I don't know if you intended for this to be recorded this way, but at times you sound like Harry.
And when you get in that upper register, yeah,
Uh,
maybe a little bit. I
there's
think he
some
was a better singer than me.
there's some kind of similarity there. And I know you told me that Harry never contacted you at all after your record came
No, I'll be honest with you, and I used to laugh to myself because I mean, everybody thought the Beatles discovered Harry Nilsson,
in.
but I was into him a few years before them. You know,
Interesting. And how did you come to record the Bee Gees song?
I've just finished with EMI. My contract and Brian, I was signed to make records for Brian Epstein's label, the NEMS label, and he was in the process of putting together something with the Bee Gees. And he just said to me, "Would you like to make a record with Robert Stigwood?" And I said, "Sure." And I got with Robert, and he played me some of the Bee Gees songs, and we thought Town of Tuxedo Toymaker was a good one to go for.
Yeah. You do a great job on it. It's a very interesting arrangement, different tempos in the song. It's very different.
Yeah, I think at the time it was very different. And it was the first time I'd done a whole big orchestra sound. So it was different.
Mm.
I enjoyed it. It was great working with the Bee Gees. They were fantastic. They did all the vocal backing and stuff, and they were great.
That's amazing. So was this before they had their first big hit?
Yes, it was. I think that they had hits in Australia, but not in the UK. They were about just before they hit off.
Wow. So I guess they were appreciative of the fact that you thought highly enough of them to record their song.
I'm sure, but they were great. It was a great experience working with them.
Yeah. Did you ever keep in touch with them through the years?
Funny enough, not really, but I was doing a midnight special in America, and Barry said to me, "Why don't you come to the house and play pool?" After you've done the show. So that was nice of him.
How good a pool player were they?
Oh, no, I know I wasn't very good.
So tell me about more of the songs on the new album because I like everything that I've heard on there. But what impresses me a lot, not that this should matter that much, but it just sounds like a very contemporary sound. I mean that doesn't matter that much to me when I listen to your older stuff because I love the sound of that time and I think it works very well for you. But it really sounds like, you know, all the qualities of a great Billy J. Kramer record from the 60s brought into today. It's
Well, I think in a way, you know, let's face it, we record with different equipment. It's now digital instead of tape,
Mm,
you know. To me, I just went in the studio with musicians. It wasn't as if it was done individually. It was more or less done live like we used to,
right.
you know, which maybe gives it that feel, you know. And, I was very lucky, Mark Hudson wrote a song, Couldn't Have Done It Without You. Uh, Tom Hambridge and Richard, his partner, the they wrote, what did they write now? Tom wrote Are You With Me? And he wrote Go On Girl. And then Jeff Perholtz came along with the song My Sweet Rose.
Mm,
J.J. Gilmore, I've been playing around with dancing shoes for a number of years. Jealous Guy was a tribute to John Lennon because I always include a song of John Lennon's in all the shows I do. And, I thought it'd be nice to pay him a tribute. So I did that. Um, I wrote Peace of Mind. I
hmm.
wrote Be Kind to Emma. The Alessi Brothers wrote I Belong, you know.
You told me years ago that you were going to work with the Alessi Brothers. Was this a song that they pitched to you a while ago, or what?
It's a song that I had been playing around with when I met up with them, yes.
Uh-huh.
I recorded, we did some demos and stuff together. We did like 4 or 5 songs, and I thought out of all of them, this was the best song, you know.
Weren't you even thinking about them like producing an album for you?
Um, you know, at one time I was thinking that, but the way things came about, everything became when COVID came around. I was just prior to COVID, I was starting to put it together with them, and then it just all fell apart, And I don't know why, but I never picked it up and went with it again.
Uh-huh. COVID changed everything.
Yes, it did.
Please. One of the songs I want to talk about is I Was Only Sleeping, which was
Right.
written by Liberty.
Liberty DeVito.
Yeah, and it's kind of obvious to me there's a riff in there which is very much like Day Tripper. It's close to it, but it's not exactly Day Tripper. But it's a great
You
song.
know, you can always find things that you think you've heard before, you know, always, because everything's been done. And, that was a song that Liberty must have sent me 5 years ago. And
Hmm,
I demoed that song with a guy from Long Island who worked on my album, I Won the Fight, Don Solenza.
right.
So I had a demo of that, which I played to Laurence, and Laurence put that together. That's how that came about.
Yeah.
I like it. I think it was a good track.
There's a number of songs here that I would instantly think of as singles, and if it was played today, certainly on rock stations, that love a lot of, and I say this as a compliment. It reminds me of 60s music in a way. Very well crafted, great melodies, really good guitar parts. It's very much to me like a 60s album brought with today's contemporary sound.
Well, thank you. That's a real compliment. It wasn't like it's just the technology of today in there, but there was no thought of going back to the 60s. Even though it was, the process was pretty. It wasn't individual people like they do a lot with recording now. It was people in the studio all at the same time. Jealous Guy was more or less all just done live.
Hmm. I
And
love,
it's
sorry, good.
and Jealous Guys got an amazing amount of hits on that song.
Yeah.
Amazing, you know.
Well, it's a tremendous song and has a great history to it. Not only John Lennon's recording, but a lot of people have covered it. I'm glad that you're now on the list. But I've seen you perform it many times in concert, and I really, in particular, love the piano playing that's done on that song and the lead guitar part. Who plays the
Um,
piano on Jealous Guy?
John Colbert, who
Okay.
was in John Lennon's. Plastic Ono Band.
Okay.
John played piano, and Jeff Perholtz played the guitar.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very, very well done. You
yeah,
know, and I played it on the radio. It's
yeah.
a
That's
great version.
wonderful.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, My Sweet Rose, Are You With Me? Be Kind to Emma. I couldn't have done it without you. Jealous Guy, Peace of Mind. Those are all such terrific songs. I wish that everybody would hear them. I wish they hear the whole album. But tell me about My Sweet Rose because that's for your girlfriend.
Jeff just called me up and said I'd written a song. I think it was he wrote it for my partner Rose,
Yeah.
and he just sent me a demo of it and said, "What do you think?" And I said, "I think it's great. We should do it." It was as simple as that. It didn't take a lot of thinking. I thought it was a great song. Thought it was a fantastic song.
Well, I think he wrote it knowing of your situation because I know of your late wife, and now you're
Right.
trying to pick up the pieces again and start a romance again, which is not an easy thing to do sometimes.
No.
But in particular, I just wanted to read this one set of lyrics, this one verse. In a lonely garden full of thorns, where the broken-hearted hide away to mourn, I found you dancing, swaying in the wind, beckoning my soul to love again.
Yes.
Great lyrics right there.
Yes. That I thought that was great. It's a brilliant song.
Yeah. I mean, you listen to a lot of what's on this album, and they're so catchy to the ear, and yet lyrically, they say a lot too at the same time. Tell me about Tom Hambridge. How did you get to know him?
Tom Hambridge has been a friend of mine for over 30 years. When I came to America, and I was doing some shows, Tom MD'd the shows.
Hmm.
And also, we were putting together an album for Australia. And on the show was like Jerry and the Pacemakers, The Searchers, um, Brian Poole and the Tremolos. So one of them, you know, package shows.
Yeah.
And they were putting an album together with each artist doing a couple of tracks. And funny enough, I did Handle Me With Care with Tom and another song. And we've just stayed in touch over the years. You know, if ever I've been in Nashville, Tom will come and play drums with me. You know, and it's just been we've been friends for many years. We've always talked about doing something together. Uh, we used to sort of like I'd send him anything new I'd written. He'd send me stuff that he'd written. We were very close, I'd had them a couple of songs of his for quite a while. You
Yeah.
know, um, Go On Girl, and I thought Are You With Me was great for a title track.
Mm.
And then, funny enough, a few months ago, I woke up one day and I said to Rose, I said, I'd really like to do a Christmas record. So I called Tom up and I said, do you have a Christmas song?
Hmm.
And he just sent me a demo of acoustic guitar and him singing it. And I told him, I said, well, I want to do it. Tom lives in Nashville, he works with Buddy Guys,
Yeah.
writer and producer. And he sent me the song, I learned it, and I just went to Nashville and cut it there. And then, it's the first time we've worked together like that and got something out.
Yeah. So that, if you want to hold up the record,
Yeah,
that is your brand new Christmas song.
it's
Christmas.
brand new. And I'll tell you the truth, we're putting this out. It's just a limited edition because, everything's digital now, but we're putting a limited edition out, and we're putting all whatever we make from the song, we're going to put to charity.
Oh, nice. So the limited edition is a 45
It's a 45, yes,
and
CD.
okay. So you're having vinyl and CD for that.
Yeah, just CDs.
Or just CDs. Can you say how many are being made?
Only 100.
Oh, okay.
Only
So
100.
One cell for me there,
Okay.
but it's a great song, and all these songs from Billy's album you can listen to on YouTube and Spotify, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and the
Um,
song as well.
I just think that I feel very lucky and very blessed to tell you the truth. Yeah, and that at this time in my life and my career, to be able, I'm very, happy that, we've released three of these songs and they've all made the top 20 on the heritage charts in the UK, which is a. So there you go.
That's
I'm
pretty
very
good.
happy.
Tell me what your plans are now. I know that you have a concert coming up in Chicago,
Yes.
and let's see if I can find the information here. I think it's
The
here
Moonlight
it is, the
Theatre.
Moonlight Theater. The Moonlight Theater
Yes.
on December 22nd. Do you have any more dates lined up?
Um, at the moment, I've not been, but I'm going to be doing the dates in April and May. I'm also doing the Flower Power Cruise again
Okay.
in March, you know, which is going to be great. I'm
Good.
also doing a thing in Liverpool, Beatle Week. I'm doing a thing there. So, I'll just see what happens.
Yeah. So you've been to the other Beatle conventions in Liverpool before, right?
Yes.
How do you compare those to the Fest for Beatle fans here?
Um, it's a whole different thing because, in Liverpool, they have bands playing multiple different places. Whereas the Beatle Fest, it's all under the one roof. And, I think all the Beatle fans that, let's face it, they're great. They're like a family,
Hmm.
you know, but I think here it's more like a family. That you see people, there's people I've met years ago and I see them every time I do the Beatle Fests.
Uh-huh.
It's like a family.
Right.
Yeah.
But you probably get a lot more family members of the Beatles in
Yes.
Liverpool showing up there, like Mike McCartney, I've heard is there often, people like that.
Um, yeah, but I mean, I come across people there like who played in bands with me around the time that before the Beatles made it. There's still a
Right.
few of them out there, you know.
That's great that they're still showing up and doing their thing.
Yeah,
Yeah. Now, what is it like with a band for you now? Because I know that you lived on Long Island for a long time and now you moved to Chicago. You had Liberty DeVito in your band. If
right.
most of your musicians were, I would guess, New Yorkers.
They
So
were.
now, is that a problem for you? How are you assembling musicians now?
I put a band together in Chicago.
Okay.
I mean, I mean, maybe I'll work with Liberty and them again. I don't know, down the road. But I live here now, and I've rehearsed and got it together with some guys from Chicago.
Okay. And I know another musician that's on your album is Jeffrey Allen Ross, who you've worked
Yes,
with because of Keith Putney.
Peter Asher,
Yeah, and Peter Asher from his,
Alan Thompson. Alan Thompson was with Jeff Perholtz,
right.
you know.
Some really good,
Joe Bellia is with the Joe Bellia. Do you know Joe Bellia, the drummer?
the Weeklings.
Yes, he played on some of it too.
Yeah.
There's there's some good great players there.
Yeah, you got great company here throughout the album. So I can't recommend your album enough.
Thank you.
Um, why don't we talk a little bit, just a bit about the Beatle days? Because would you say that John was the one that you were closest to?
I would think so. Yes,
Hmm.
I would think so. You know, It's funny because, like, when I went on tour with the Beatles, John and George would always stand at the side of the stage and watch me and critique and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Um, and also, John came to the studio, played songs to me, You know, a lot of people don't realize it, Ken, but all them songs. Do you want to know a secret I knew before I recorded it?
Hmm.
That to me, I call your name, I'll keep you satisfied from a window. I'd never heard them until the day of the session. They were just played to me. I had to learn them, arrange them, and recording them in a very short space of time. I think maybe that's why this album is. I knew all the songs before I was going to do it.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, and you had Paul was there for the sessions for from a window, and
then he was there. He was there for I'll keep you satisfied too. You know,
so they were coaching you along. Did they have an idea for the arrangement themselves?
not really. You know, they just basically played the. You know, played them live in the studio on piano. You know, because people always say to me, "What were the demos like?" And I go, "I didn't have any demos. They came and played the songs." You know.
Hmm.
And, you know, with certain things, like you pick up on different things. It's like from a window, believe it or not, I recorded, it's the only time I recorded a single twice. Because the first time I didn't like the way Paul McCartney played it with a particular feel to it, which I didn't think we captured. So we went in the studio again and redid it.
Okay. Did other members of the Dakotas add any ideas to these arrangements?
No, not really, no. You know.
Did George Martin have any ideas for the arrangements?
Oh yes, George Martin. George Martin would sit at the piano with the Dakotas all around him, and he would embellish everything.
Hmm.
That's how George was brilliant at that, you know. Because John and Paul, they were very basic, just played very basically, but George would go in there and smarten them up, I say.
So he might tell the other members of the group what to play?
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, definitely. Didn't you tell me that with little children he had some idea that he brought to the song?
Funny enough, a lot of the ideas on Little Children were mine. You
Uh-huh.
know, the offbeat rhythm guitar was my idea. The drums, on Little Children were just brushes, and then we overdubbed sticks on the build-up and things like that. George played piano on Little Children,
Hmm.
Um, that was about it.
Hmm. Okay. I was talking before about discovering artists, and how did Trains and Boats and Planes come to you? I mean, obviously, Burt Bacharach and Hal David already had history in writing hits, but did you hear Dionne Warwick's version or what?
I had I was at Mick Green, who was playing guitar for me at the time. I was at his apartment
Yeah.
in Wimbledon, and Burt Bacharach had a special on TV, and Mick recorded it. And in the special, he did a choral version of Trains, Boats, and Planes.
Uh-huh.
And Mick and I got together, and Mick and I worked out an arrangement, and we went to George Martin, and we told him the ideas we had because we detuned guitars and a lot of different messing about, and you know we put we put together a rhythm track, and George then added strings, and I got Mick to play the solo in the middle on his father's mandolin.
Uh,
That's how it came about.
that's a great arrangement. That's a great
Yeah.
version of it. Didn't Burt Bacharach say he liked your version the best?
Yes, he did. Apparently, he used to compliment it when he was doing his shows. I'll tell you something. It's amazing that I've one of the best gifts I got for my 80th birthday.
What's that?
A fan of mine came to me and brought Burt Bacharach's autobiography autographs, and I will treasure that. You know, I treasure it.
Ah, very nice, very sweet.
Yeah.
Huh. How about George Martin, what can you share about your experience working with him? Weren't you a little bothered by him wanting to double track your voice?
Um, I think at the time, th that was very in vogue to do that.
Yeah, it was.
But as time went by, when I got away, that was more or less on the Lennon McCartney songs.
Hmm.
But then I moved on. I did a record called like Neon City, and
Right.
that was just straight, you know, um, song that's gotta last forever. It's done straight, when I got away from the Lennon McCartney things,
Hmm.
because no, I think maybe it was done because firstly it was to hide some of the mistakes because I didn't know the songs properly, and also so the Dakotas weren't a vocal band at all. So if there was any vocal backing, I did it.
Yeah. Because I was thinking around that time, Neil Sedaka double tracked his vocals. Leslie Gore,
Oh,
I think, double tracked a lot of her vocals. So it was fairly common at
yeah,
that. So, and do you remember, was it awkward for you to turn down a Lennon McCartney song? Because you turned down One and One is Two.
yes. It wasn't very hard. No, I mean, I'm very honest. At the time, the songs the Beatles put forward to me, I thought it was at the point, it was around about the time of Little Children. I thought that was the strongest song.
Hmm.
And they came up with four songs. And John even said afterwards that they wouldn't have worked for me. You know, um, I have a demo of all one and one as two. You
Hmm.
know, I don't think, I didn't think it was the greatest song. I thought it was okay, but I'm very honest.
Yeah, well, I've
The one song I do regret was "I'm in Love"
yeah,
because I was doing a session at Abbey Road. They came in and said, "We've got this song, you got to do it," and we did it in about 20 minutes. And I don't know why, Ken. I never went back to that song, so they gave it to the foremost.
yep.
But I think if I'd have done a good job, I may have got another hit from them.
And then you ended up releasing that recording of yours on a greatest hits.
Well, I believe it or not, I didn't want it released because I didn't think it was good enough. But they just put it on there anyway.
I thought you told me there was a story that you heard it in a restaurant or something, and
Yes, I was in Mickey Mantle's in New York, sat there one day and I heard it come over the speaker and I was like, I remember that. I hadn't forgotten it.
but now you think it was a good idea to release it, right?
I think it was a good idea. In fact, I do it in my show now.
Yeah. And you did a newer version of it.
I did a newer version, but believe it or not, I still haven't come up with what I think is the perfect arrangement. But I'm doing it live in my show.
Okay. You mentioned Handle with Care before, and I know you've done that a lot when I've seen you in concert.
Yes.
So was that from your friendship with Tom Hambridge? Isn't that where that started?
It was just at the time, I just thought it was a good song to do
Yeah.
for the album that they were putting out. I didn't want to go back and redo one of my hits, if you understand what I mean.
Right.
So I thought it was a good choice.
Oh, I think so too. It's just you think of the Traveling Wilburys and you've got every member in there sharing a lead vocal. It's so
Yeah.
much a trading lead vocals song, and it's still a great song even when it's one person singing it, but it's so hard to, it's so cemented in my brain that there's five Traveling Wilburys all taking a lead there.
And the thing is, people always remember the original,
Yeah,
so it's got to have a bit of spice from the original. you
right.
know. But I like the version we do.
Well, I've always loved it. I'm always
Yeah.
happy anytime you cover a Beatles or solo song. And first time I heard Handle with Care, I was really surprised, pleasantly surprised.
Oh, good.
So, are there any plans to record a new album? You gonna wait a while or what?
I'm going to give it a bit of time. I would really like to do an album with Tom Hambridge, and Jeff Perholtz,
Hmm.
you know. Um, but I'll see. I have a Tom Hambridge song that I'm working on, but I would like to do it. I'd like to go to Nashville and do a whole album. You
Okay, well, I hope you get around to doing that. You got a good team right now with these.
it seems to be going really well.
Yeah, and you can't go wrong with Laurence Juber helping out.
No, no, he's very good. But
He's
the thing is, I believe it or not, I used Lawrence in the 70s. I had a record called San Diego
uh-huh.
that was out in England. The Ships That Passed in the Night was a record I did, and Lawrence played on all them records back in the UK.
Wow. I didn't
Yeah.
know you went that far back. So you worked
Oh
with
yeah.
him before he was in Wings.
Yes. I worked with him in London. It's for EMI as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll bet he remembers all that because he has a good memory for everything.
Oh, he's got the records.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun talking with Billy J. Kramer. Again, his latest album is Are You With Me? And
Right.
want to hold it up again one more time?
Are you with me?
You should be with him on this new album.
And
And the
Christmas kind of thing.
yeah, there's only 100 copies made of the CD. Be one
That's all.
of 100.
Pardon?
I said be one of only 100, but save one for
Yeah.
me.
Right.
Okay. And it's called Christmas Kind of Feeling, the new Christmas
Yeah.
song, Billy. And hopefully, when you said you're going to be doing some dates, you said in April, they'll be on the East
Yes.
Coast.
Um, I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
Not sure.
Well, be sure to let me know, and I'll pass it along to all my listeners.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Billy, it's always a delight spending time with you, and this is always your home anytime you want
Thank you. You made it great today. We got through it.
it. If you only knew all the problems we had technically right before this.
Right.
Anyway, thanks to all of you for watching, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.